right, this is our first podcast. I am Lynx White. This is my partner.
Brendan Brown.
We are the owners of Discovery Monkey Lab. We're going to talk during our podcasts about what we do and what our experience is, what our qualifications are as we go. I want to get to right away the subject and give some value to you guys because we think this subject is one that a lot of people are dealing with.
It's a fascinating subject because people deal with it every single day. There's not a moment that they don't.
The subject is people getting into a situation where they set up their own space so they can control the environment, and people needing to control the environment. We've got our own personal experience. We work with people all the time, clients, businesses, individuals, families, and what we are reality architects. We work to help people to shift the beliefs that affect the behaviors that result in the outcomes that result in the experiences that people have that they call life.
And the realities can be, in just like environments, small micro environments, what we're talking about, but also very big environments, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is something that you and I were talking about that we've had experience with. I know for me, it was a big deal controlling the environment. If I can control the environment and make sure my environment is completely a certain way, then I will have a certain experience. But what happens is controlling the environment never really works. So I want to ask you guys.
But what does that mean to control the environment?
Well, I'm going to ask them.
That's a good point.
I'm going to ask them.
I'm asking people. Yeah, what do you think controlling the environment means?
So do you know anyone who has to control the environment, who has to control everything? And
because I know you would say in some of the workshops that you do, you talk to people, and one of the examples I remember you talking about was your workshops that you had to have it a certain way, right? Or can you tell them a little more, like to give a
that's a good example
maybe?
Yeah, when I first started doing workshops years ago, about 20 years ago, I had a situation where I was in a shop and I had to make sure everything was quartered off and I was separate and everything was a certain way, and I wanted to eliminate all distractions and everything.
But why?
Well, because I thought that if the distractions were eliminated, then I would have a sharper connection to the people I was working with. Things could be calmer. So let me give an example for this. Let me give an example for this. One of the things we do is we work with people. One of the many, many tools, we use a lot of mind tools. We are trained in context process mind control. We were trained in how to use hypnosis. We were trained in cognitive therapy. We in Discovery Monkey Labs work with people to literally shift their realities. Okay, we don't use drugs. Everything we do is natural, and everything we do seeks to teach an individual the power of their own mind.
And being able to really either reframe something in a different way that gets someone to reach out and be able to get new tools or different tools, right? I think that's a big part of it, but also getting people to shift their perspectives. That's a very popular thing in this field these days, and especially in the coaching industry. And consulting as well, as being able to frame things a different way for people to be able to move on and to be able to get out of that box, that environment box. That's very much a frame that people look into, but if we can shift that, we do for people. But also we can build new realities for people and to work towards getting that instituted for an individual or a group of people who are working together or consulting with other people about.
So we work to give them to build on what you're saying. We do those things to give people more options. So a lot of individuals will say, I have this behavior. So for example, I'm trying to control the environment. If I control everything, then then everything will be. And in my case, if I do hypnosis with people, if I was doing hypnosis with people, I was like, well, the situation has to be completely and totally quiet, and there can't be any disruptions. But then I found out that meant that maybe my abilities were a little shaky, so I learned how to do things in environments that maybe were a little more chaotic, where I could help an individual. So, for example, when you and I we did a pain management. Remember, we did a pain management event.
Yeah, that's on our website. Yeah.
So we did a pain management event, and I was working with folks who were elder folks who were dealing with pain, and we were in an environment that was very kind of chaotic because there was a lot of people there working with a lot of different.
Well, and a lot of it
modalities.
was the same thing over and over, getting into habitual patterns. They're seeing the same person every day. They're in this small little room. They get walked out, or they get wheelchaired outside. It was just a very methodical approach to the environment, and that sort of bred some
Actually,
sort
no,
of
that's a
other
really good point.
controlling the environment. It was already controlled for them.
Actually, that's a really good point.
So they had no control over their environment, because literally it was just this space that they had was very monotony. Was a big thing for them.
Wait, that's a really good point. Wait, I want to go back to that, but I want to finish the story. Wait, that's a really good point, because I didn't consider that. They had their environment controlled for them, but the environment that I was working in is one where there were a lot of people doing a lot of different modalities to heal. Like there was massage, there was a whole bunch of different people doing different things. And I was working to help people with pain management. I was actually hypnotizing people within the environment that was very loud and chaotic. Mm-hmm. And to be able to do that, I had to get people to be able to focus on my voice, and I had to be able to do it quickly. So being in a situation, so this is the key that we're talking about here is, the key is not controlling the environment. And this is something we deal with people all the time. We were just dealing with a business owner who, she's trying to grow her business, but her main concern is controlling the environment, not growing the business. So we'll talk about that in a second. But the key is adaptability. The key is not to control the environment. The key is to work within, to develop your own mind, and the power of your own mind is so amazing. People have no idea how powerful their own minds are.
It goes past space. But there's also utilizing your environment fully. And I think there's a discernment there that needs to happen about what the space is needed for, but then there's how you use your mind and how to focus it in the right place and where it's needed, so that you produce the outcomes that you want to have produced.
Right. And people are focusing they're focusing their attention on something that actually limits their options, that limits their possibilities. They try to control everything, and you can't. The minute you try to control everything, the minute you start to see that other factors keep coming in to create chaos. So adaptability is the key here. So in this case where I was dealing with people who were pain management, I had to be adaptable and had to have my tools and my skills in a place where they were so adaptable that I could quickly help them to find out how powerful their mind was in being able to stop the pain or create pain relief in a situation where the environment was kind of chaotic. But
before it went to the body, though.
It was already in the body, because these people were dealing with pain all the time because of what you said. Connect it back to what you said. Now go back to what you said, right? So the reason they were having the pain was because someone was there. There was so much routine. There was so much control of their environment. And one of the things that we deal with all the time with people who are having pain is the environment is they're doing the same thing over and over again. They're sitting at the computer every day. They're doing the same thing, or
constantly see that.
And and the environment is constantly controlled. They're at work where their environment's controlled, or they're trying to control their environment, or they're trying to have the same experience every day, or they're trying to stay in their comfort zone.
Their desk is where it starts and it ends, and it doesn't go outside of that. It's just everything is on that desk right in front of them. But then it's like this place that they build that they lose their creativity. They are stressed out. They're holding tension in their shoulders and their neck. Their hands, their wrists are starting to hurt. I see this in the body a lot, where people are constantly getting pain in there because their muscles are literally constricting and shortening, and it can do less work.
And you have a unique perspective because you actually work with people physically with their bodies as well. You apply the mind and the body together and work in that capacity.
And I have a tech consulting background where I was doing the same thing over and over, day in, day out. I know what that it looks like. I also traveled and did the traveling thing where I actually changed my environment. I went to East Coast, West Coast. I was from the Midwest. I tried changing my environment and seeing if it was different. The habits followed me, and so it wasn't about changing the environment like where I was physically located. It was something in here,
In the mind.
and that's what we're addressing.
The other thing is you said something about controlling the environment, the office, but there's people we deal with all the time who, that, like, let's say they're a parent and their environment is, and they maybe they work from home and they're dealing with their kids, and really that's the environment they're in over and over and over again, and they're in the same thing over and over again, and maybe they're trying to control the environment or control things. The whole point is this: you get into a situation where you think in controlling the environment is the answer, you're going down the wrong direction. You're always going to find, and I want to bring
That's
up this.
the goal
You had this
right
great
there.
point. You had this great point on the way over here, or this morning on the way to the gym, and you said something about the fact that your background on the farm.
That's also it. So it's I think the fear that comes here with people not controlling their environment, it comes in, at least started in my early childhood or growing up as a child living on a farm, a horse farm. If you don't control the fence that's keep the pasture for the horses or the cows or whatever you have in the pasture, but I had a farm of horses, so if you didn't control where the horses went, they'd roam free, and then you'd have your neighbors calling you saying, "Hey, your horses are over on our farm and on our land. Please come get them." So there's a danger there in not controlling your environment. So I think, coming back to our conversation, I think it is important people make use of their environment. They understand organize it in a way that they can live in it and use the resources and the tools that are in the space. Controlling it it just sounds like the wrong word.
Well, I know there's a reason that there's another side to that with the farm. I was working with someone who had a situation where they were very much always trying to control the situation. They had a farm. They were always trying to control the environment. They were trying to control the animals. And I wanted you to give your perspective of it because you actually worked with animals and you had an experience where...
You know what's funny is, thank you for that. What ended up happening was that ended up following me. I ended up moving to a neighborhood, like a cul-de-sac or near a school. We were in more of a rural setting on a horse farm. That actually, controlling our environment and the animals getting loose, followed us to this more urbanized setting where our dogs would get out of our fence because we weren't controlling the fence, or we weren't keeping up after the fence and making sure that the nails were tight on the wood, and we were actually having to stain the wood of the fence and keep it nice and sturdy because the dogs would just get out underneath the fence and they would find a way out anyway. So it's a misnomer in a sense that you control your environment. There's always something that's going to change that.
There it is.
And that's the adaptability piece. Are we coming full circle here?
Yeah, because this is the point I wanted to make. There was an individual I was working with who was trying to control his environment. He was so interested in controlling his environment that he wasn't adaptable around the animals. Because animals, anyone who has animals or has been raised around animals or even who has had pets, realize that animals throw the change into the mix so fast that, he actually got injured severely disabled by a bull because he was not aware and adaptable in the environment. He was so busy trying to control it that he missed the fact that a bull got in. He didn't even understand. He couldn't even remember how the bull got in.
Wow.
And he was in a situation where he's working with the cows, a bull got in and it injured him so badly he couldn't even remember it. So there was stuff that had to be repatterned in his mind after that.
Physical.
So it was physical. So this is the full circle thing. So, and it's cool that you said that about the animals, because whenever we try to control an environment, it's not the answer, because the environment will always show us whenever we think we got control, right? Whenever we think we got control of something outside of us, there's always something that comes in to prove us wrong, okay? However, this is the thing that we have to manage and gain control of. And this is the thing that in our work we always see is the last thing that people want to fix, is what's going on up here. They think if they fix the environment, if they change the environment, if they get a better house, if they get this different set of clothing,
They
if
get a raise this year, a good performance review.
If they fix, we live in wine country. If they fix how they look, a certain way. We live in Northern California. There's a lot of individuals who are very. If I fix the way I look, it's going to change my whole life.
I mean,
but then the habits.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the appearance and keeping an appearance a certain way if it's based on a strategy that's being used.
And is the strategy working with what's going on up here? And is this the thing that's really in control? So,
because it comes from the inside, not the outside.
It comes from the inside,
right?
not the outside. So to go back to what you asked me, is that I struggled with this, and I was a college professor at one point, and that was a really crazy experience. But I watched people in academia trying to control everything in their environment, everything. I'm like, this is kind of crazy. There was no adaptability up there.
Do you think it's because? Do you think people, like, for instance, there's stuff on this table that we're sitting at here. When people start moving stuff, or like, you guys can't see this, but I think it's something to keep a person preoccupied, I think, is one thing. But I think another thing is just boredom creeps in. I see that a lot in people that have to busy themselves with things. I think that's a part of controlling the environment as well. But I think it's partially because I think they're wanting to fill their time with being useful, but also like preparing things so that they can feel like they are in control. And that, I think, is the essence of controlling the space, right?
I would say what you're talking about, from my experience, and again, we're always learning, we're always growing, and we're always seeking to learn new things.
Yeah, it's never the end all be all.
From my experience, what you're talking about is there are certain people who get, and this is a mind type, and this is a coping strategy, and this is something that we look at with people, because we always look at what their strategies are. Okay, so let me say this right. If you don't change the belief and you don't change the behavior, so we work with changing beliefs, that changes the behavior. If you don't change the behavior, you're not going to change the outcomes. You can decide you want to do all this on the outside, but if you don't change the behavior, the outcomes are going to be the same. So like, people will move 2,000 miles away. They have the habits come with them. They still have the same effect. You got to change what's up here. That's one thing. The second thing is that what you're talking about is that there are certain folks who develop a strategy that when they feel anxious or overwhelmed and they feel they can't cope, they have to put everything in a certain order. They order everything, and they have to make sure everything is ordered, and that's their environment, what they eat, their schedule, everything has to be, and they can't stray from it, because if they stray from it, this is dealing with something that we call the 6 fears, and that's probably a whole other video in itself. But there's these 6 fears and there's an evolution that people go through in fear, and they get to this certain point, and when they've gotten to the final point, they kind of get so afraid of everything that they can't change anything.
They freeze, or
they kind of freeze, and when that happens, and that's tricky, because then you got to start to move them backwards through the fears to get them to get them to a place where they can start to unfreeze, and then you can get them to adopt new beliefs, and the new beliefs go along with new behavior, and the new behavior has new results.
So it's beliefs first and then behavior, or behavior? Right? Is it bi-directional?
Let me see what
maybe this is a difference.
I think that might be a difference. We can talk about that. I think that's a good one for another one. That's another one. That's
we want
good
to keep
for
this
another
video
one.
kind of shorter.
Okay, so to kind of sum up all of this, because we have gone in a lot of different, I'm really glad you brought up this stuff about, because you've dealt with a lot of folks who are vets and elder folks who have a lot of pain, and you're right. You've seen them in situations where their environment is controlled for them, or there are people who are living with someone in their lives who's setting the terms of their lives, and they're controlling the environment. And I was dealing with someone recently. We were working to shift some beliefs that she had, and she was saying, that she was living with a partner, her spouse this is what he's doing in his part of the house, and I'm like, that's okay, I can't control that anymore. And she realized that she had more of a sense of peace when she worked on what was up here rather than what he was doing in the environment. Okay.
Wow.
But we've seen, we were dealing with someone, someone was asking us some questions about their business lately, and they were, saying, hey, can you help me with this? And we realized that this was an individual who needed to be moving outside of the comfort zone. But what they were doing was they got a business so they could set up an environment where they could work within the environment with no change to everything outside. But then they're having difficulty growing the business because they want to bring other people in to share the space with them, but they're saying, I have to control the space. So what's happening is it's not lining up and they can't grow the business. So in actuality, they need to be focused as a business owner. And we see this all the time with business owners. A business owner's job is to grow the business, right?
Well, yeah, and not focusing on the mundane, keeping the lights on, cleaning, doing this. I mean, when you own a business, you have to do everything. You're in charge of everything. You're responsible for it. You're accountable to it. You have to kind of ask for help in those situations and ask, who do I need to consult, or who do I need to be informing?
In her case, she needs to be delegating. She needs to be working on the bigger growth of the business, partnering with other people and giving value out there to other people. And then these other things can help. She can employ other people and then support them by helping them to do those things, because she needs to be focused on the bigger picture. So what happens? And then I think this is where maybe we can sum up. What happens is people get so focused on, and I love that you were saying that about the, they move something. Their view gets so myopic, and by that I mean you get like so tunnel vision, right? It gets so tunnel vision. If I can control,
seeing right in front of your face,
that's as far as they can see. That's absolutely
it's only
right.
So far,
that's absolutely right. And so they get so myopic that they can't go in the bigger picture and see the upper opportunities because they're so busy doing this same thing day in, day out. Mm-hmm. It's like this conversation here we're having. You're like, wait, what about these people who are controlling their environment? I'm like, but that's a really good point. There are people who have their environments controlled for them.
And then that dictates what their behaviors are, their beliefs are. And that's unfortunate, because that means that you're only going to be able to get so big, or you're only going to have this amount of space to work in, or be cordoned off to this side of the area. So,
and then those people are feeling a lack of purpose. They're feeling a lack of passion, and they're feeling a lack of growth. And before we continue, and we're probably going to sum up here, but I just want to say that one of the things that we're really going to be trying to get people to understand in this podcast is that many of the problems that people have come from the fact that they're not seeking full actualization. And I want to do a video on,
maybe
a podcast.
That could be our next one.
We could talk about it.
We can talk about the
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't think people realize how important that is. There's something called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a pyramid, and in order to be able to get to actualization, you have to make sure that all the rungs below are filled. And it's not, Maslow, this is not, we didn't make this up.
We didn't make this.
This is Maslow's pyramid. Maslow did it.
We have plenty of tools that we've used.
But we can show people that. We can show people Maslow's pyramid. And then we can talk about how actualization is. And one of the main things that I see with people all the time is that, well, I don't have relationships. I don't have this. I can't find security. I can't grow my business to the next level. I can't, whatever. Or I have this business. It's, this business is several $1 million, and I'm having.
But I can only get so big.
I'm having problems with this, with my interactions with the staff. How do I? Actualization is the key to all of this. If you move towards actualization, you start to be able to develop all of these other things. They all start to fill in, because as you move to the next level, you develop all of these skills. That's another one I'd like to talk about in the future. It's like how when you want something and when you want to go for something, people say, I wish for something. Well, if you wish for something, you're wishing for developing the skills that will give you that, which means that you have to dive in and you have to be in the uncomfort. When you find yourself trying to control the environment, take a step back, take a breath, and ask yourself, is it best that I control the environment, or is it better that I control what's up here? What are the habits that are leading you to feel that you have to control your environment? if your environment is being controlled for you, how is that limiting your growth and your potential? And what up here is making you feel like everything has to be a certain way? And imagine what your life would be like if no matter what came along, you could ride it like a boat on the water and go with it instead of feeling like,
Yeah, if you're white knuckling that raft, your chances are you're going to be thrown off, and that force is going to be used to toss you out the raft.
that is such the best. That is such the best example. We did this. We went several times. We were living in the Midwest. We went whitewater rafting up in Wisconsin, and one time we knew someone who was like this. She had to constantly control her environment, and she couldn't control the environment. She was in the raft. She
didn't
thrown
have the
out of raft.
strength. She didn't have the strength, the ample strength to
control
control
the whole river.
The river.
So are you trying to control the whole river? Because if you try to control the whole river, you're going to find out it'll throw you out of the boat. But if you can control what's up here, and the same thing with horseback riding.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned how to horseback ride, I learned on an English saddle, and you have to kind of be really flexible
Mm-hmm.
in your midsection to be able to go with the horse. Otherwise, you'll be thrown off.
Plus,
It's the
in
same
horse
thing.
shows, if you're stiff and rigid, it's not a good style. The judges will mark you on, at least in Western pleasure and shows like that.
I think you should do a whole one on horse and how you have all this experience with
Lessons learned in
horses, and we should do one where you take the lead and tell people about how the horse, what that teaches you about the mind.
Absolutely.
That's where I want to sum
This
up
is
today.
the first one. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to subscribe to our channel,
Please do.
like this video, share
And
it
share
with other
it to
people,
everyone.
share it on your social media, and let us know in the comments what is it. Do you know someone that's controlling their environment, or that wants to control their environment, or is creating chaos in their environment, or is creating success in their environment? We'd like to hear your stories and your comments.
And what you want to know about, if it's relating to the mind, let us know, because we'll do something about it. We'll talk about it. And then again, I'm Lynx White, and
This is Brendan Brown.
and we are the owners of Discovery Monkey Labs, and we're going to put our web site link in the thing.
Yes. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we hope you have a fantastic day, night, morning, weekend, whatever
it is.
wherever you are in the world. Have a great one.